Everyone please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Everyone please be seated. If the cold should show up, and they said they were, but as I think most of you know, they had a new arrival in their family just last week. Right. So they said they're going to try. But if they do, then I'd just like to plug them in wherever in the agenda that may fall at that point in time. So we'll do that if that's okay. That will just be informal as far as having them talk to us. And Jim, I know, had been preparing the contract. I don't know if that was finalized. Anyway, so let's see. Let's have a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
I'll move it.
Second. Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next item is to acknowledge the minutes of the April 25th, 2022 board meeting. I have a motion, please.
Move.
Okay, motion second. Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item will be the public portion of items 5, 6, and 7. So do I have a motion to open the public portion of the meeting?
Make the motion. I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So anybody who has any comments they'd like to make about any of the agenda items and items 5, 6, and 7, please come up to the podium and identify yourself and raise your question or comment.
Crickets.
Okay.
Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Where is Mr. Frederick? He's supposed to give us a financial, okay, so we'll just
Sherry's en route.
punt on that one till he gets here. So then we'll move on to some of the discussion items. And the first one, Jessica, to talk about Community Day. Give us an update on where we stand, what we're doing.
All right, so just super brief, as you know, we already signed the contract with the rides provider, so that is all set. We're set for Columbus Day weekend. It's going to be the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and wristband days are Friday and Monday, just like they were last year, and that was a really big draw. Parade Saturday, fireworks Sunday. Of course, music on the stage as much as possible, except for when one's breaking down and when one's setting up. The only thing that we're not having this year is the movie, because as much as we tried to get it dark enough, it just was not dark enough. Before Community Day last year, I tested it by parking 2 cars in front of the movie screen and shining the lights directly on the screen, and I went, that'll work. All right, we're good. It was not dark enough. So we'll be finding something to fill that slot on Sunday night right before the fireworks. But we're really excited. We are going back to soliciting for vendors in full this year. Last year, unsure of how we would do some of the layout things with the larger rides, we did a solicitation of vendors where we reached out to them. We're going back this year to opening up for people to come to us. The vendor fees are reinstated, which is $25 for a booth, and you know, the parade, people are already starting to sign up, which is fantastic. We've got businesses and marching bands that are already starting to come in for that, and that's really...
One of the questions for the board is we need to think about who will be the Grand Marshal, you know, for the parade. So if you have any suggestions, recommendations, then we are welcoming those at this point in time. It doesn't need to be decided now, but we need to have that addressed. Tim, I know that Wilson's been working with Jessica, as you mentioned, I think, you know, with respect to the drainage, you know, concerning the Carney rides, they are interested to bring in additional rides that are much bigger, but as we have discussed, they need some pads in case it rains, soggy fields. So that's something that we have to be, working on to try to finalize,
Yep,
right?
I've been working with Wilson on that.
Yeah.
You get a couple of days rain out there, and it's just not very hard ground to set large things up on. So that's really.
Yeah, and I think we're working with some of our neighbors on better crowd control, better traffic flow, and possibilities of,
Yes.
having people park, elsewhere. Of course, the mosque and New Hackensack, Fire, Company are more than willing to have that. In fact, I think, the mosque is going to be proposing to the planning board a site plan change that would allow them to expand their parking lot a little bit with item 4 and so forth, so that will come in real handy.
And we're also looking into a shuttle bus this year
Right.
from the firehouse. That was a fantastic parking area that I think a lot of folks couldn't necessarily make the trek to. There were a couple hundred parking spaces back there that were available to us. So I'd really like to work with the fire department again to get that going.
Sure.
All right?
So not a lot of time, so
No.
we have to get that,
Correct.
all done before the last minute, so thank you, Jessica.
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions or?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Frederick.
Frederick, it's your turn. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick.
Thanks.
Thank you, Frederick.
Hi, Frederick. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to present a 4-month review of the status of financial affairs of the town of Wapinja. The last time I presented was for the first quarter of 3 months ended March 31, 2022. And I'm going to give a couple of comparisons. So when we look at some of our major revenue lines in the General Fund A, we can see that the fines and forfeited bail, which is account A 2610, so far we are averaging $35,000 a month, and currently we are at 46% of our annual budget of 232,000. So we increased our average by 5,000 compared to the last presentation that I did, where we were at 30,000 average. Mortgage tax report, we saw a report come through the email today, slightly lower, but when I do the average, it's still maintaining at 85,000 a month, and with an annual budget of 464,000, we are well on our way on meeting our budget. Rental of real property, we're at 33% of a budget of 240,000, 79,000 received for the last 4 months. Sales tax, we have received only for 2 months. Sales tax is usually sent to us every 3 months. The last sales tax report and revenue was for the period.
So from a
December.
sales tax revenue perspective, right, we actually received the payment for December, January, and February. The next one will
Exactly,
be
yes. Mhm.
March, April, May. We'll get in the second quarter.
Yes, we're
Okay.
going to receive that in the second quarter around July. So that is why we are only at 10%. And also, if
Okay.
you remember, we did increase our budget in the B fund to cater for the transfers of functions that we did from the A fund. And even though we did increase our budget to 1.8 million in sales tax for both the B fund and the highway, as you all know that sales tax, we had been doing very well. Last year, 2021, we had over 1.3 million in the growth alone. So I am confident that we will achieve that budget, although we can see only 10% so far year to date, which is only 2 months. And again, because of the timing difference. Planning board fees, we are at 48%, 17,000 for the last 4 months. Safety inspection fees, 68%. Zoning fees, 42%. I'd also like to report that we did submit a reimbursement request for the COVID-19 pandemic expenses that we incurred in the town of Wapinja, mostly for the PPE, gloves, masks. And we also did claim for the deep cleaning that we did a couple of times in the town hall and also in the senior center department. We were lucky enough to have been approved for those. So we received 21,000 in April. There's a similar amount of claim that we have sent in, about 21,000 also. And it's being looked at, and we are confident we are going to receive that.
So what is the total amount we asked for FEMA aid? Was it
So this is just
$43,000?
for the COVID-19, so $43,000 that we have requested for. There's only a small amount remaining for management cost, which is 5% of the total cost. So that one we will be claiming soon, maybe in the next couple of weeks, for our time spent in preparing schedules, sending report, gathering vouchers, and sending them off.
And is there a
and the
cutoff
meetings.
is there a cutoff to get FEMA aid? Is there like a date cutoff, or is there?
This one, no, there's no cutoff because the COVID pandemic is still
Okay.
going on. The other one, for the FEMA Ida storm, we all know that we've had some issues with the places that we were claiming floods all the time. So we have a meeting every week with the FEMA people at 11 a.m. on Wednesdays, me and Steve Fraser, where we discuss the progress, and we continually update them on what's going on. So far we have sent to them quotations of the project for the parks that we had floods in, and they are aware of the issues we are facing, and it's a work in progress. So the only amount of revenue we have received regarding the Aida storm is for the debris removal, which we received in the month of March. It was a modest amount of only 3,400, but we did receive that. So the next phase would be for actually claiming to replace the dugouts, put the clay and fences up for the parks, and that is a work in progress.
I want to thank Frederick, though, for his doggedness in the COVID, funds recovery, because at first we were denied, the request for funding. So Frederick kept at it, and we were able to get good recovery and still look like we'll get some more, for well-deserved expenses, we felt. So
Thank you, Frederick.
You're welcome. Summary of revenue, 84% of the A fund, 15% of the B fund, and this is mainly because of the sales tax amount that is still out there for 8 months. For 10 months, we've received 2 months.
So of
And
the
also not taking into account the growth which we budgeted, kind of factored that in the budget.
So if you normalize out the town taxes, right, at the roughly 3.6 million, how much is the taxes received? About 2.8 of that 3.6?
Yes, property taxes that we budgeted for was 2.8 million in the A fund. We received, of course, 100% of that. That usually represents about 64% of the total budget in the general fund A.
Frederick, on the sales tax, do they give you any projections midstream, or do you just wait for the
we
quarter
just wait
end?
for the revenue.
Okay.
Yeah. For the mortgage tax, they send something.
Okay.
To say, but not sales tax. Expenditure-wise, we are also still just about modest spending average on the A, B, and DB, and most of our monies are still in the account. That's why we have a substantial amount of funds in the cash because it's still early days. We have a whole 12 months, to spend this.
So a
money.
question
Yes.
on the expenditures for A fund. So we're at 34% of the budget,
Yes.
which is right about where we should be, 33%. Are there any exposures that you need to make us aware of at this point in time?
Well, there's some, always like health insurance, but, that was already factored into the budget. There could be costs to do with the projects that are ongoing, especially the consultants. That's the area that we've had issues, engineer, attorney, and planner. But at the end of the day, we should be able to come before you in good time
Okay.
and ask you to move monies if we need to do that before
Thank
the end
you.
of the year.
I think the potential biggest exposure
I know
is
where there is one, yeah.
the union
Yep.
negotiations that are ongoing with both unions. So there will be other financial requirements based on those negotiations, for salary, for insurance, for a variety of items. So, that will be something that we have to build in. Because the contract, remind everyone, went through the end of last year, even though we just signed it at the end of last year. So now we're looking at the next 2 or 3 years. They've requested 3 years. So that's under discussions right now.
Okay.
I would also like to report that we were able to send the report for the ARPA
Yeah.
report that was mandated by the federal government that each municipality to report on the funding that they were given for to use for a variety of activities like investment in water, sewer, broadband infrastructure. So we were able to send that report in. We told them we have the money, we have a plan, 3 projects that we intend to use that money for, and they told us that's good enough for now. So I think our engineer is working pretty hard with the budget for those projects. As soon as they are ready on their side, we can start spending so that we give them report on how we spend the money.
What's the next filing date, Frederick? The end of the year?
It's going to be 1 year from end of April, so we have time.
But we'll be getting the second installment
Yes,
this
yes.
year, right? Then we'd
in the
have,
summer,
Right.
about the same amount, 1.1 million. So by the end of the allocation, we should have about 2.2 million for our use. Moving on to the projected fund balances as of end of April, I have not made any changes because there's nothing significant that I have seen that would make me at this point to change the major projections of the estimated end of the year fund balances for the general fund A, the part-town B fund, and the highway. So that concludes my report for April.
So based on everything you've seen so far, that's why you didn't change your projections for
Yes, I
the
didn't change them.
cash from March to April? Okay. Is there any outstanding bills from 2021 we're still, or are we all
The
caught up
bills are
now?
all in now. The
Okay.
bills are all in, yes. Those
And
are
you'll go
late
back and you'll
payments.
correct the
There's a-
books, I guess you, like accounts payable, you go back and make the adjustments for
yes. So,
2021?
There was one that came in late for Dial-A-Ride, but we were able to account for it in 2021. And if there are any expenses, even relating to salary, like for arrears that we may have paid this year, that is inflating the budget, we are going to make an accounting entry to reallocate them from the current budget into 2021 where they belong, because those arrears relate to those years.
Okay.
Okay?
okay, anything else, folks? Thank you, Frederick.
Thank you,
Okay,
Frederick.
thanks. Welcome.
Appreciate it very much. Okay. I think we'll, as we've discussed, we're going to continue to take a conservative perspective on things as costs rise. We've already seen some slowdown in mortgage tax.
Correct.
As the report that came in today that I circulated around, so I anticipate that will continue as to be off what had been like an $85,000 run, maybe it's a $70,000 run as interest rates increase, so.
Yeah,
And
we're still doing very
inflation.
well, though. I mean, if you take a
Inflation
look at where
keeps
we are
going
today, we're around 340. I think we budgeted 464. So if you went down to 70 or 65,000, you're still in very good shape.
Well, the last year's proceeds from mortgage tax, which are coming in, so we're quite good, same
Yeah.
with everything else and the way we managed it. But I think,
Yep.
as the
gonna
councilwoman
be-
said, with also other costs rising, you look at diesel, cost, everything else, we're going to see that continue to erode on some of, but I think, again, we're in very solid position and continue to monitor it quite closely. So I think, when we look at other costs, we're certainly still looking at, improving the quality, of the community through programs that we'll continue to discuss. So we're not holding back on those, we're just being more cautious. Also looking for more grant funding. So we're looking at that very, very closely to try to get some other programs done, particularly waterfront revitalization. That's near and dear to Angela particularly. So,
But still keeping
Yeah.
in mind the residents and what they're going through. So we are prioritizing to keep the costs
yeah,
down,
so.
as
and-
they face, as all of us face, the high cost of everything that's going up, and I don't see an ending right now.
I do thank Frederick and his
Oh,
people
definitely.
for, all that they're doing in this area, so.
Thank you again,
thanks,
Frederick.
yeah. Next item on the agenda is I want to talk about town car replacement. We had a 2005 blue car that's sitting out there. I asked the mechanics, our town mechanics, to look at it, and they deemed it unfit for continued use. It's been getting a lot of use, and so I took it out of service. I talked with our insurance agent and passed this one on the bill, vice versa. And also I did a survey of other municipalities, and basically, as you would expect, other municipalities, actually 9 out of the 19 I got reports back, have one or more vehicles that they use for similar use that we do, which is not just a supervisor's car. Actually, I haven't used it, but for a wide variety of other services. East Fishkill, as you would expect, has the largest fleet, actually one for every single department head, believe it or not. I'm not asking for that, I'm just asking for one. But others, all the major communities, whether it's Fishkill or LaGrange, Poughkeepsie, Unionville, the town, and the city of Beacon, they do have vehicles which are on the list. Also, I had asked our insurance agent, Marshall and Sterling, to look at the issue, and particularly with respect to the potential liability and exposure for employees using their cars. And you have a letter in front of you. I won't read it out loud, but you can look at what the recommendation is, and actually policy that I talked with him before, and now he says we really should be putting into place the 2 policy points there. Just for reference of the board, we have a tremendous amount of use of the car, and probably more so if needed. The biggest user is actually Tom Barr, who uses it to go out to do his data assessments for the assessor's office. And Tom has really a need for a four-wheel, all-purpose vehicle, some of the places that he has to go. Jessica and Donna put almost everything that they have into their own personal cars for recreation, and I don't think that's the best thing to do. Regina, Frederick, has his staff from time to time, and then Joey and Todd, for example, Todd, when he picks up the test kits among many other things. And Joey picks up stuff. It's picked up in his car. And I think, Bill, correct me if we're wrong, but we're still really one of the few remaining municipalities that picks up test kits regularly because our residents are asking for them. And Ty goes up there. Joey is picking up, supplies out of the county as well. So I believe that it can be well served. What type of car? I recommend that we look at an SUV. Steve would, if the board agrees to, in principle, to go do it, would look at it from the public, bidding site to see what's available, and then come back to the board, with a recommendation to us as to what might be available. Right, Steve? That's the way you've done it before. And then what we've done in the past, actually, one time the town had two vehicles. There was an older 1994 one, which Bill may remember, which they auctioned. Probably again, Steve would be able to auction it. I would think not for a great amount of money because it's all rusted out underneath, but somebody could probably refit it and do something with it. The engine and the body itself is shot, but the rest of it seems to be working okay. So that's my recommendation for the board, and any discussion, I'd like to have some now so we could perhaps authorize Steve to do a little bit of homework on it.
Do you use the car at all?
I don't know.
Okay.
I've been just using mine and carrying it in there, and I have not sought reimbursement, although based on the insurance agent,
You're
we
entitled
should.
to it.
But if we had an SUV, then I could use it for certain town activities as well if others weren't using it. So, but yes, I think that's one of the things that the insurance company is actually recommending because of personal liability and how the insurance would work, is that everyone should be putting in a regular report, for the expenses, the
Yeah.
mileage, which I haven't done to just save the town some money, but
Well,
Yeah.
as you know, private companies have their employees use their own personal cars, and they get reimbursed for mileage. I know some companies give company cars, major companies generally do not. I understand the insurance aspect of that, so I'm open to debate. I mean, how many departments have cars at their disposal right now in the town? The building department does,
building has code enforcement cars, but
That's
not
what I
for
mean.
general use.
right, but I mean, why would they need for general use in the building department? I'm just saying,
Yeah.
they're taking care of.
No,
it.
and I'm not including them on
That's
the
what I
list.
mean.
There's
I'm
many
trying to
of others,
figure out
yeah.
who has,
It's
has
building
cars?
in ground, Steve has cars, he has vehicles,
Right.
trucks, so does highway department, but
right,
nobody else does.
So we need to have fleet vehicles here, bottom line, all right? The vehicles that we have for the building department were purchased a number of years ago. I was involved directly with those purchases. The sheriff's vehicles, I've been involved directly with those purchases. My position has been for the entire time that I've been here is if you are doing town business and you are working for the town, you should not be using your personal vehicle. You should be using a town vehicle for insurance purposes. And we run a $20 million operation here. We shouldn't have people using their own personal vehicles to do things. There's too much liability. I understand sometimes from time to time you have to put something in your car to go out to the park. I get that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about regular business, going to the bank, right? Doing money drops, all that kind of stuff that has to happen on a day-to-day basis needs to be done, in my opinion, using a staff vehicle. Right now, the big challenge, as Steve can attest, getting vehicles is very difficult right now. I'm dealing with this at work. Used to be able to go on and go to BidNet and see what's available
Everybody is,
and
right.
order the vehicle you want and have it within 120 days. Now it's like, 24 months to 36 months maybe. It's crazy right now. You can't get anything. So what I think we should do is start looking at what is available. There are some vehicles that are available. If you want to go towards a four-wheel drive vehicle, you're going to have more challenges, I'll tell you that right now. But I do understand the value in having a four-wheel drive vehicle. The genesis of the supervisor's vehicle was just the basis of what I just said. Prior to me being here, and I believe that vehicle's from the Ruggiero administration,
Right.
the town supervisor the purpose was to go to meetings and use for day-to-day use. Some supervisors took them home. Other supervisors chose to leave them here. It was really at the purview of the administration. Basically, if you're not on call 24/7, the philosophy here was there's no reason to have the vehicle at your house. We have had folks that are 24/7, fire inspector, some building inspectors, maybe if they're on call, have no objection to them having the vehicle at their house as long as they live
Highway.
in this town or an adjacent town. But that's really at the purview of the administration. I believe that there should be no hesitation in looking at replacing that vehicle that we have right now. It's clearly outside its useful life at this point. So my recommendation would be for the town to explore what's available through BidNet and through the OGA website and see what's out there. I know that it's going to be a challenge, but we have to start someplace.
I don't have an issue with going out and looking at vehicles and getting bids, et cetera, at this point in time. I think we do need the vehicle, so I've got no issues, and I know the 2005 Impala, the blue one out there, it's in
Well, it's got a lot
terrible
of
shape.
use, and with the salt on the roads that
And,
we
and, you know,
have.
we got to be concerned with employee safety too,
Yeah.
so that's the other thing you need
That's
to be
why.
concerned with.
That's why I've
So,
taken it out of.
service,
use,
yeah.
Right, out of service right
Yeah,
now.
that seat is a challenge, that driver's seat.
What year
I'll
is
just leave that
car?
right there.
2005.
2005, so. okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's time for a new vehicle, and we have, you know, last time we did this, we did it when we had fund balance, we were able to pay for it in cash. It wasn't an issue where we needed to bond, we didn't need to attach it to a bond. I think right now, at this moment, we have the ability to do that if we start the process now. As you said before, under the fiscal report, we're obviously continuing to proceed with caution as we navigate this unprecedented fiscal time. But that said, I do believe we need a vehicle. Rather than having folks use their own vehicles, I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay, but I also see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 areas that do not have vehicles.
Very small
So-
communities.
But, you know,
That's it.
Millbrook is spread out, Milan is, and I agree, I'm
Yeah.
not here to debate this. I'm just saying, I'm trying to think what is the best
Well,
for
we're,
our town. And I understand where you're coming from with a company car, you know.
we're the
with
third largest town in Dutchess County. I mean,
Okay,
you're talking
but
about towns that have
I'm
less
just saying who has
less
them and who
population than
doesn't.
the Hamlet of Houstonville here, some of these towns.
I'm just saying who has them and who doesn't. That's all.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking if there's a way that we can be more conservative, we should look at it. So yes, I don't have a problem with Steve going out to investigate what's out there. I don't have a problem with even getting a used car at this park.
Well, you're going to pay more for a used car than you are for a,
I understand that,
a new
but you,
car.
of course you are, because of supply and demand right now.
Yeah.
Everything is very tight, from plywood to whatever. So I don't have a problem with looking, but I think we should still discuss it. And safety, yes, is very important.
so why don't
All
we
of
just,
us.
so why don't we just have Steve go out,
Yeah.
get some
Okay.
estimates, see what we can come back with, and at that point in time, we'll have,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I just need a little direction on the type of vehicle.
Well, it sounds like you're going to have troubles getting
not
a
electric.
four-wheel SUV, right?
What I would
So-
start with, Steve, is start with what we have in our fleet right now. What
Yeah.
we have in the building department, which are SUVs.
Right.
We
That
have,
size SUV.
we have a small size SUV and a large size
Right.
SUV.
Yeah,
And if we can try to be consistent to start, so
Right.
that we have the same type of vehicle for maintenance purposes, that might be a
Right.
good start.
Right.
Now, this isn't a perfect world. I don't know where you're gonna end
No.
up.
Yeah, no, the only way we're gonna find out is if I list it.
Right.
And like I just need to know
Exactly.
what I'm listing.
Yeah.
There's a couple ways to do it, as you know. I mean, you can look on the BidNet and see what's available, or we can
Yeah,
do
I
a
wasn't aware of that option. I'm familiar with the OGS.
You can do
list
OGS
it
and you can
then
spec,
they come
you can
back
also
with-
spec out.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, you're gonna have to use multiple approaches on this in order to even see what's
I'll
available.
get with you about the BidNet.
Okay.
I'm sure you're creative.
Steve has been.
Exactly.
Okay,
So
thanks.
thank you.
Roads mechanics been helping with the maintenance?
Oh, yeah, no, our
Somebody
mechanics
say
are
something.
top
Because at one
notch
point in time, somebody
and
was
doing
asking
all
me
that
for it.
sort of work, and it was as a result of, you know,
Their
knowing
inspections
how
and
well they
everything
know
else.
it, I
Sure.
asked them to do a special inspection, because I don't want to wait for trouble to happen, I want to get.
Yeah, and I
it.
think it's a good idea taking a crowd of
So-
service
So
too.
Okay.
that's what we did. Okay, so,
Perfect.
the next, as part of our ongoing, I think, community service speaking program, that try to have at least one speaker every month. I asked Renee Hansen to come here and talk to us about Mental Health Awareness Month. I have a resolution that you've seen. But, as we all know, the mental health is a major crisis, for us here in the United States today. And, the organization that Renee represents, and she'll be talking about it, is really one of the largest, if not the largest, of the grassroots organizations in our country that, help to really build a better life for people who have this illness. And it is a serious illness, as you'll hear I think Renee talked a little bit about. I have some statistics in the resolution that I prepared. It's very important, especially to a community such as ours. I think there's not one person probably, certainly in this room watching the show, our meeting tonight, that isn't distressed some way or the other. It hasn't had an impact, by COVID and all the other things that are going on that are even greater than COVID in many ways in the impact of our lives. So it's important to all of us here on the board. We welcome Renee to come on up to the podium, introduce yourself, the organization, and more importantly, how can we further help? We appreciate the ribbons that you placed around our building, and we also had a couple for the gateway signs that we put up, and also the village, which was separate from us. They've done the same thing. So thank you very much, Renee, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I have some handouts for you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't reach it.
Okay, here you go. I got it.
Here. Here. I have short legs and short arms.
So thank you very much for inviting me here today. And Supervisor Thurston, you spoke so eloquently about the desperate need that we're in our country. We've all been affected with the pandemic, and even without the pandemic, the statistic is 1 in 5. So if you look around the room, 1 in 5 of us will, in our lifetime, have some sort of mental health problem. So the problem with this is that there's so much stigma around getting help. Many people wait 8 years until they seek help because there's a lot of stigma behind this. We think, well, we should be able to pull ourselves up. We should be able to take care of these things ourselves. The longer we wait, the worse the problem becomes. The brain is an organ in our body. Mental health is physical health. Mental health, physical health, it's all health. So we need to take care of everything. And NAMI's mission is to advocate for those who have mental health disorders, to eradicate stigma, to support research causes, treatment, access to services, to support our loved ones and the caregivers who take care of them, and to educate the public about mental health problems. So at NAMI Mid-Hudson, we are an organization that it has a hierarchy. The national organization, which is housed in Washington, D.C., is our bedrock. And then after that, each state has their own. We have NAMI New York State, and then NAMI Mid-Hudson is the local affiliate. We serve Dutchess and Ulster County. We offer, everything that we offer is free. We offer educational classes. We have classes called Family to Family, which is a signature program. It is free, it's evidence-based, a 9-week program where caregivers can come and learn all about the resources that are available, how to communicate with our loved ones, and how to recognize signs and symptoms, how to navigate the medical field. It's led by a 2-person team who are trained, and they are volunteer teachers who they themselves care for an individual who has a mental health condition. So that's what makes us very unique. All of our volunteers have walked the walk. You know, we all have had a loved one in our lives that and we've been affected. So it's a great group because we offer great support and education. We also have a basics class which is offered online, and it's for caregivers who have school-aged children. Again, it's much the same about communication. It's about learning signs and symptoms, how to care for your loved ones, the resources in our community and beyond. We have a peer-to-peer, which is also a free 8-week course, and this is for adults with mental health conditions who are looking to better their understanding of themselves and their recovery. And that is also taught by trained leaders with lived experience. In our Own Voices program, we go out into the community and we offer public presentations that offer insight into the realities of recovery for individuals that live with mental health conditions. So In Our Own Voice has 2 people who share their experiences, what life was like when they first became ill, what helped, and what their present and future is going to look like. It's very, very powerful when we hear the progress that people make. And what's so powerful about it is that there's hope, there's help out there, and there is hope. We also have another program, it's called Ending the Silence. We go into schools and we work with high school students. And we teach them about signs and symptoms of mental health, how to take care of their own mental health, how to prevent a problem from getting bigger. We talk about how to help their friends if they suspect their friend is having a problem or a family member. They leave with, many of our classes, the participants leave with packets of information. Like the family class, they leave with a whole binder full of information that you can go back into and read and reread. When we go out into the schools, those programs are also, we give the kids a nice folder. The feedback from the programs are wonderful, family to family and basics. The feedback is it changed our lives. It made our households much more peaceful, and we know what to do. Now we know what to do. That's very, very important. And the Ending the Silence we offer not just for students, but we also offer it for staff and family. It's been very well received in the school districts. And lastly, we have Homefront, which is an online program, and that's for our veterans and their families. So that helps very specifically their needs. So when COVID hit and we all went on lockdown, we quickly learned how to adapt our programs, and we went online. And there has been a silver lining to all of that because we found we'd be able to reach a lot more people. People aren't constrained by their geographic area, right? So if we have support groups or classes on a certain night and it's hard to get there, online offers people the ability to attend and not have to get a babysitter or travel far in the evening when they're tired. In addition to the educational classes, we have support groups. So we offer one support group per week, and when we were in person, we had 3 different locations in Dutchess County, and we had 1 location in Ulster County. Now everything is online. So people from Ulster can hop into what was traditionally a meeting that would happen right here in Wapinja Falls, which was very, very nice. So we have 1 a month, and in those meetings, it gives families an opportunity to network with one another and to learn from others' experiences. We learn about what doctors we can go to, what therapists are available, just experiences that people have, which is very, very helpful. In addition to all that, we participate in the crisis intervention training with police officers. So we offer resources during the CIT trainings to provide the officers with a perspective of how to interact with individuals with a mental health condition. And then lastly, advocacy is a big part of what we do. So we partner with NAMI New York State, and we work on different issues to help to advocate for families and for their loved ones. Supervisor Thurston asked me to speak on how you as a board could help us in our endeavor. And I've given it some thought, and there's different things that have come up during our meetings, and it seems to be like a repeated problems that we see everywhere. And one is that hospital beds, mental health hospital beds are disappearing like crazy. There's no hospital beds in Ulster County, so those folks have to either come here to our local area, or they have to go all the way to Westchester. So when a family's in crisis, they need help immediately, and that's very difficult to send your loved one all the way down to Westchester. So that's something that we and NAMI New York State has been working very, very hard on. So if you have the opportunity to consider housing for people who have mental health disorder, these are people who are not dangerous. These are people who have come out of perhaps a hospital setting, and they're not ready to go home yet. They still need some care. And they may need a little more support with their therapists and with their doctors, and getting acclimated to their medications. And they're not able to work. So that is something, if you have an opportunity to consider that, then that would be something that we would ask you to take very seriously. This is a very, very important need. Another thing is on your website, if you would be able to find a place where you could list NAMI Mid-Hudson as a resource. So if you have a
Done.
page, excellent, that's
We'll
wonderful.
create a spot, for it.
Okay.
And,
So those kind of things for resources,
Yeah.
very nice. We want to get the word out that there is help for
Yeah.
people.
So provide us, Renee, whatever information, links and so
Yes.
forth, and we have two folks that work on IT and social media and so forth, and I think we have one of the best, in that regard, so we're more than happy to do it. We've been doing it in some other organizations and other activities of interest for our community, so that's,
And then what we do, we go out into the communities when there are events, like if you have a health event, we will host a table. And it's very helpful because citizens will come up to our table and we can talk to them and give them references and such. So anytime you have a health event, we're happy to attend that. You can contact us and we'll be there. But I was thinking that if I'm going to talk to our president and our executive director and see if there's something more specific.
Sure.
And I'll ask
Yeah.
them to give you a call.
sure. No, we
Have you
appreciate-
reached out to the county for their support also?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Are you on their
absolutely.
website?
Yeah, and we've worked a lot, well, everything that we do comes from grant money. So, we've worked with, I'm sorry, just drawing.
It's okay. Happens to all of us.
We work with the county executives in
Okay,
both
good.
Ulster and Dutchess.
Dutchess, good.
Sure.
And on a lot of initiatives. And
Excuse me.
Ulster is working very, very hard to come to a solution to their problem because they closed.
Oh.
They with COVID, they needed the extra beds for COVID patients, and then they never opened them up again.
wow.
We have a lot of empty beds right there in downstate. That's been closed, so maybe reach out to Governor Hochul and see if something could be worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because there's quite a bit that's empty up there.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, there's beds and
Yeah.
think about it.
That's
I would contact her and see if she can provide some kind of relief.
Also, sitting, behind your left shoulder, the gentleman in the maroon shirt.
Cranberry.
Or cranberry shirt, I guess, whatever. Kevin Hawthorne. Kevin is in charge of our Veterans Advisory Group that the board, set up. And we have a wide range of activities for veterans, and Kevin is the guy to talk with, particularly with respect to what your home front online. I think, please, share with him your business card, but Kevin will help because we're doing a lot of things, and I think this fits into some of our engagements as we're looking at now and out into the future.
It absolutely does. Mental health is a crisis
Right.
for our veterans
Certainly.
and our members that are in the service currently, and their family members, so.
Yes.
Yes, love to partner with you.
Good.
No, so thank you very much. I think, in fact, next week or in 2 weeks, we've scheduled with the county for a training program for all of our staff, on mental health. And we're going to have that here in Town Hall. And we do have a seniors organization, and maybe we can have, I'll talk with you some more, but have somebody come out. We have a regular courses, training programs. We get all sorts of different people come out. And that could, usually it's on a Tuesday. I don't see, Jessica's not here right now, but, we can, set up something so that you can come to speak to our seniors
Awesome.
as well.
That would be great.
So I think, Bill, I know you have.
Yeah, so your organization obviously is an incredible resource, especially during this time that we're going through right now. We talk each meeting about the anxiety levels within this town and, this area across the country due to the uncertainty of what we're facing here with cost of living increases and a number of factors that we don't have control over as a government body, and, uncertainty equals anxiety for many people, right? So it's very important that your organization is here tonight. We will do whatever we can to help promote your mission. I'm on the radio every day. I'm connected to a number of radio stations. I'll be happy to talk to you offline to help promote the mission of this organization, because I think people need to know about it. And we need to promote it on a number of different platforms in order to get the word out. Familiar with your great work with the police officer CIT training. In my daytime role as Director of Emergency Management for Dutchess County, we have the helpline in our building now, which is the future 988 center for this region, which, for those that don't know, 988 is going to be the suicide hotline that is being adopted universally and going online as early as this summer. And mental health in Dutchess County obviously has been a priority for the county executive with the Stabilization Center. And organizations such as yours are key because government can't do everything. And it's so important that we have partnerships with entities such as yours to help identify and fill the gaps that government can't reach. So I thank you for being here tonight and highlighting your mission. And I greatly appreciate the dedication of your volunteers and your staff. It takes special people to do the work that you do, and it definitely is appreciated. Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, while Renee's here, I'll just
gonna
move
say,
the
let's
order
move the
around for the resolution, if you don't mind. So
No,
we
that's
have
fine.
That's fine.
Resolution 2022-99. It's a resolution declaring May as our mental health month in the town of Wapinja, and if you don't mind, I'll read it because I think it's some of the information I built into it is important. Hopefully, it's all correct. But, so whereas mental illness is a medical condition that disrupts a person's thinking, feeling, mood, ability to relate to others, and daily functioning. Whereas regardless of race, nationality, age, religion, or economic status, mental illness impacts at least 1 in 4 adults and 1 in 5 young folks aged 13 to 18, and 1 in 17 people live with serious and chronic mental health conditions such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and major depression. Whereas, and Kevin, this is important, an estimated 22 veterans die by suicide each day. People, each day, we're losing those people that are heroes to us, as well as many others. Whereas all Americans experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives, and mental illnesses often result in a diminished capacity for coping with the ordinary demands of life. And whereas medical and other treatments through medical action and counseling is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental illness, health illnesses, 90% of all mental illnesses are treatable. And whereas there is strong research that animal companionship, humor, spirituality, religion, recreation, social connections, and work-life balance can help all Americans protect their health and well-being. Whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and resident shares the burden of mental health problems and has responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. And whereas it is time to take action for individuals and families living with mental health conditions and to provide support and educate our peers and to do our part. And therefore, be it resolved, the town of Wapinja hereby proclaims May 2022 as Mental Health Month and calls upon the citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses and schools in Wapinja to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions. Do I have a motion?
I'll
please?
move it.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. And if the board would like, if you want to make a couple comments, otherwise then stand down here, get pictures.
You know, I just want to make a quick comment. First of all, thank you for coming out tonight. I think this is a phenomenal program. Volunteers are certainly hard to get, so we appreciate people volunteering. And I'm sure it's very hard getting grants as well, so thank you very much for all the work you do. So how many people do you actually see come through your facilities that you're able to help? Is it a couple hundred? Do you know, have any idea?
Yeah, well, I don't have the facts and figures with me
Okay.
tonight, but we do, I really don't even want to say because
Okay.
I will botch it all up.
No, but if it's anything like the proclamation here, which I think is a very nice job, by the way. If it's anything like the proclamation, and I'm sure it is, and it's probably actually more extensive than what we've got on here, this is wonderful what you do. So thank you for everything you do. Keep up the great work, and, you know, any way we can support you, we'd love to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just
Thank
like to
you.
thank you for being here, and thank you for the work you do.
You are very welcome.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let's, want to go down and just get a picture
Sure.
of the proclamation? Yeah, no, you're in it. Kevin, representing the veterans, come on up. I don't mind with your Canterbury shirt. Yeah, I want to get somebody, we need somebody to take a picture. Jessica usually one, huh? Here, here, I got one. Town phone, so. Here you go. Big couple. Thank you. Here you go. Give me that, yes. And we'll put it on our website too, and we'll have a press report.
Thank you, be safe, thank you.
Sorry, Joe, out of order again.
Couldn't tell if I was smiling. I'm all right, I'm good.
And Renee, I'll send you a copy of that picture. Okay, thanks. Cool. Okay, let's see. Resolution 2022-80. This is the resolution adopting negative declaration in connection with the local law of 2022, which would amend Chapter 240. Everybody knows this by now. This is the 11th time. So zoning, Chapter 210, solid waste, littering, and storage of garbage, and Chapter 217, subdivision of land of the town code with respect to a variety of matters. We've had a lot of really good discussion, and I think important discussion. Malcolm's here, and Barbara's here. If we have any other questions, I know we got them to address the lighting thing, but please, before we even have a motion, let's have a discussion.
So I guess the key here, last time we talked about was the 15-foot lights, and it looks like Barbara and I guess, and Team Hara put in height restrictions, requirements from other towns as well, and we seem to be in compliance with the other towns in that 12 to 15 foot, and I think that was our last
Right.
sticking point that we had on this, so I have no objections with this resolution, so with that, I'll move, we approve Resolution 2022-80.
Third time's the charm.
I'll second it. On the question, if we have an entity that justifiably meets the requirements to go higher, it's a variance, is that correct?
No.
Planning board
The
has the
planning board
opportunity.
has the.
So it's just a planning board action?
Yes.
Okay, no objection.
There's a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none,
And
motion passed.
so the only thing I'll say too is with the LED lighting today, that makes a significant difference too, right? Because it's a lot brighter at this point in time, so that's why 15 foot seems to be the right height to put here.
And we have one potential situation that could be glaring in Bill's backyard, so we're paying attention to it.
I mean, we're obviously
Yeah.
cognizant of the candle power,
Right.
or however it's defined now. I mean, I see the definition for the color temperature, I see how we're looking at that. So, if we do have a situation where there's bleed over, which we dealt with this with Tractor Supply.
Yep.
So it'll be handled. We had to reposition, one of those lights had to be
Yep.
turned, and that solved the issue. So, I'm confident that we have a handle on this now. Thank you.
As long as the
Exactly.
planning board has the leeway to change whatever needs to be changed.
They do.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, resolution.
Good job.
The companion resolution, Resolution 2022-81, resolution adopting local law of 2022, which would amend Chapter 240 zoning, Chapter 210 solid waste, littering, and storage of garbage, and Chapter 217 subdivision of land and of the town code with respect to a variety of matters, which I don't believe there were any issues remaining on that one.
No, I'll move this one.
Okay.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you, Malcolm, and thank you, for, the hard work and patience, but we got, I think, some good legislation there, and I think we can, I hope, you can learn from this experience, because we're going to have more code changes, but I think what's very important is that we go through this process, try to compress the process. I think we're going to have another workshop talking about code changes, and I want to try to streamline it so that we can, keep it moving, but to address the fundamental issues, because, we don't live in a vacuum of these things, so we have a lot of moving parts to it, which each one of the members here have to deal with. So please take that as kind of a lesson, of what to do in the future. But thank you for the hard work that's put
Yes.
into it. We do
No
appreciate it.
bundling. Come to the board and explain what's going on before
Yeah.
anything changes.
So the
Thank
next
you.
one, we'll have, putting together some other possible ones. We'll have a workshop to discuss it and work this process, I think, more streamlined, but more thorough.
Signs on Route 9 versus signs on other roadways, we got to talk about. I
Yep.
mean, you have a 40,000 car per day road versus, a 10,000 car per day. That's two totally different worlds.
Yes.
So some of the signage on Route 9, as it continues to, by the minute get, wider, we just have to be looking at and I know the setbacks have been adjusted, but some of these signs are landing so far off the road, you've passed the place before you even have seen the
Oh, there's a
sign.
sign.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's, we're doing that on purpose. I think it's an
No.
inadvertent side effect
Right.
to some of the existing code. So if we can just take a look at the signs again, I know that we've done this. Oh, it is?
Yes.
And then, of course, the other thing is we're in a burn ban right now, but, I'm reminded every time I go to Home Depot and I see a chimney for sale, I just want to make sure that we're talking or speaking to what's permissible, a little clearer versus what's not permissible when it comes to having a fire pit, per se. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments, suggestions? Okay, very good. Let's move on. Thank you again. And Barbara, thanks, for all your input. It is much appreciated. Next resolution, 2022-100, This is with respect to a hiring of a clerk to the justice in our, justice court, town justice court. The individual's name is in there. The hourly compensation is also listed, so the judges have made a specific request for this.
This is just a replacement for
Yeah.
open
Yeah.
spot,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2022-101, resolution approving a compromise and settlement of a claim against the town for damages from a water main break.
So I'll take this one because
Okay,
it happens to be in my neighborhood. So back in April of 2021, we had a couple of water main breaks, basically in front of the same residence, 10 Gabriella. And so chemo pollution came out there. There was significant water damage, not only to the driveway, but also to the property itself. The driveway actually ended up with waves in it, so it's kind of a wavy thing. And then from a basement perspective, it basically destroyed the whole downstairs basement. All the flooring, all the carpeting, all the sheetrock and insulation had to be replaced, significant damage. And so what this does is it basically covers the remaining balance that's owed to the resident that they paid out of pocket. Everything else has been covered either by the insurance company or chemo pollution. So this would be the remaining balance. We'd like to make them whole. And I understand that in order to release the check, we'll need a release form, which our attorney has given to us. So we will submit that to the folks to make sure that, again, as this thing is approved and it's $4,427.82, that we do get the release before we issue the check, and that'll close this out. So I make a motion that we approve this.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2022-102, resolution appointing a seasonal groundskeeper. Steve, you want to say a few words? And are you sure we're going to be able to keep the person?
Don't jinx them.
I did have
really
a candidate come and is very eager to join us, retired NYPD. And
Oh, great.
I find I've been having the best success with retirees, so looking forward to having them on board.
Good.
And you found this
I've
person?
not had any success in filling the other open positions, and I have spent probably 30 hours doing,
How many open positions do you still
I
have?
still have 3 left,
3.
Yeah.
What's the rate on the open position?
17.
Okay.
Make that
Which,
motion.
I want to discuss a little bit in executive session as to that particular issue, but we have a motion.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you. Sure, Steve, thank you. I might as well stay up there because
Yeah.
the next one is a Resolution 2022-103, approving a contract for repairs to the town, hall generator. So I think most of the board is familiar with the issue we had last week, but why don't you summarize it briefly?
Right. The generator malfunctioned last week and put the building in partial power. It's the control unit that malfunctioned. It is original to the building. The generator technician says it really is not the proper application for this building. It's obsolete, parts are no longer available for it. He has suggested a simpler switch, transfer switch, that will eliminate the problems that we had recently and have had in the past with that transfer switch system. I don't have the pricing completed yet. The equipment is just under $9,000, but I need to get a quote from the electrician on the installation to bring back to you.
So we need to table this then.
Yeah, table,
Okay.
but I'm hoping to have that
Okay.
for you for the next
Yeah,
meeting.
okay.
I'll make a
Thanks,
motion
Steve.
to table it.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes.
Let me just say with regard to what happened last week, we are lucky, we're very lucky that we didn't inadvertently burn up some of our appliances when this thing dropped a phase. And I don't know if it was the generator that created that leg to drop or what the situation was. It was outside or inside, whatever. Shout out to Steve and his staff shutting down the appliances immediately when recognizing that we were down a leg here. So that could have been another HVAC disaster if they didn't shut those units down. So We need to get this corrected, obviously. This is not an option. We need to be in a position here where we have continuity of operations if we lose power, but at the same time, the generator, I would like us to have a preventative maintenance contract once Steve evaluates all this. The way it works at the county is they turn on at a given time each week, and they run for X number of minutes, and then we have CAT comes and Gentech comes and does the different generators on a regular basis to make sure that they're operating properly, and they meter them and make sure everything is on the up and up. So that's something that we need to do, in my opinion, at this facility.
We actually have that in place.
Okay.
We do have, the technician that I mentioned is the company that has been doing our preventive maintenance.
Okay, good.
Good.
Go ahead.
Is the generator working okay?
Generator portion is fine.
Okay.
It's the controls in the building that.
Okay.
That blue?
Yeah. I do want to mention, at first, we did not know what the root cause of this was, so I put in a call to Carrie Pratt of Central Hudson, and they were immediately responsive. Actually, 5 trucks came out, but they recognized the importance of maintaining the continuity, integrity of the town, government facilities. So I do want to shout out to Central Hudson that they were immediately responsive to our needs.
What is the status of the generator at the Emergency Services building? Is that still on the radar, or what?
Yeah, that one is still under warranty with
Oh, good.
the installation.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, we'll be putting that on the
since
maintenance program now, too.
Since we're doing this. Yeah.
Going down that road.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. The next item is Resolution 2022-104. This is a resolution approving payment of accumulated sick time. Jim, maybe you can best explain the complexity issue here. And by the way, I think 1 or 2 board members asked about, does this set precedent? Union has agreed it does not.
Okay.
They will sign something or put it into the, collective bargaining agreement, whatever, but I got that commitment from them 2 days ago.
Great, thank you.
This also, so the CSCA contract calls for a cap of 200 days of accumulated sick time. An employee accumulated more than that as of 2020, I believe.
Yes.
It appears it may have been, frankly, as a result of COVID, in that one of the things that happened during COVID was there were different sick times that were established because of COVID tracking and things. So this is the only employee who is even close to the 200 limit. He's filed a grievance, and rather than go through the process, the easiest thing to do is to approve the claim. With respect to, the sick time, he's being compensated rather than, he's being compensated for 38 days. So, or 39.
38.09, yeah.
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 Yeah, this is not, in my opinion, this is not a major issue. It's a one-time situation. I would say, due to the circumstances of COVID, the individual went over the maximum number. We as a town board have the right to handle this by resolution. In years past, there have been situations similar to this that we've had to handle. Understanding it's a one-time thing, so I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions?
So
Seeing none?
the only thing I'll ask is that we make sure, again, Jim, as you just said, there's no more like this.
Right.
And I just want to make sure that between, as an example, this was a highway, but between highway and our accounting department, that we do a reconciliation. Because I think this is how this kind of got out of whack here a little bit, the reconciliation process, and maybe due to COVID, it didn't happen, but I just want to ensure this doesn't happen again.
And one of the other things that, I know I've said this in the past, and something the board may consider from a financial point of view, is establishing reserves for cashing out vacation and sick time. Because we have, on the horizon, a number of employees that will be
Retiring.
retiring, And when that happens, it winds up being a big hit on the budget. Because
I think it's a prudent thing, for us to consider.
So,
I agree with you, but I think it's also prudent that the department heads make sure that their employees are taking their vacations. That's
well,
very important.
I mean, they're allowed to carry over a certain amount of sick time and vacation.
Anything over that
Right.
they're not allowed, they need to be taking that. And if, it's costing the town money when they don't.
Just saying that the highway department can carry 200 days. So,
I'm just saying too, that we don't want this to happen again.
Well,
because,
the challenge becomes when someone decides they want to retire and we're not.
No, I understand retirement, I'm not
Yeah.
talking though about retirement.
Well,
I'm making
the-
sure that the department heads ensure that the people are taking their vacation.
because the bigger issue from the budget point of view is typically the person who retires is being replaced. So you're not reducing that budget line, you just got a
Right.
lump sum out
And-
for the accruals.
So I just want on record that department heads should be
And-
looking at
and
that.
Another issue that Sarah and I had identified, and we plan with the current contract and new ones, is that some people haven't read contracts, to understand what has been required, or they misread them to require. And that's where I think the legal interpretation is very important, I think, as we finish a contract, right, to make sure because part of this issue also may have arisen over in the highway area with the records keeping, so we have to do a better job on that.
Well, the other thing too is, the highway contract's been in place for quite a while. There's a bigger issue with respect to, the town hall unit, because the old town hall, the employee manual had compensation issues, because our current employee manual predates the union. So there are provisions in the employee manual regarding compensation for employees, and it makes no distinction between union and non-union employees, because at the time it was written, there was no distinction.
Okay.
And
So that creates an issue.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I mean, my paycheck at the county tells me, like right now, warning, you are getting close to vacation time limit.
That's right.
And then once you go over that, you lose hours.
Right.
Right? Because unfortunately during COVID, I lost hours because I couldn't take time off. So now it tells me on my paycheck, you lost, X number of hours because you went over your limit. So through payroll, we should have the ability to advise, 2 periods prior that you're
Yes.
approaching.
that's how this is
Exactly.
taught,
Yeah.
because it had during COVID been showing one thing, and after COVID, when it was adjusted,
Yeah.
it came up with a different number, and the employee
Oh, well,
recognized it.
listen, if it's our discrepancy, then that's one thing.
That's what happened, Bill. We
Exactly.
are recording it
Yeah.
properly now.
So we gotta make sure that
Yeah.
we're giving through
Right.
payroll, the employee is aware that they're getting close on their limit, because then when you get that, I don't know how it works at the town, but when I hit a certain quarter, that's when I get X number of hours, which
Right.
could put you over the limit, right?
Right.
And then you're like, I didn't take the time
Right.
off. And it's on the employee, it's not on the employer, it's on the employee, you didn't take the time
Right.
off. So, that said, I think we can probably do better on that.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that goes
something
back-
that needs to be reinforced by the department heads and the employees, that they know what they need to take, or they will use it, they will lose it. And that has to be stressed.
The other thing is, in theory, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So in theory, we should be encumbering, in theory, we should be encumbering all this money.
Yeah,
right,
that's
It
right,
is,
Bill.
it is,
No,
it is under GASB, and that's
Yeah.
one of the things that, again, that if you establish a reserve fund for those items,
It will-
underwriting, bond underwriters look at that very favorably.
Yeah.
We should definitely look at that when we go into budget. If we're, we'll see where we're at. You never know day to day where we're gonna be with the way things are going. But we should definitely look at that. I know we talked about this years ago.
Right.
And then, of course, things didn't get better, so we didn't have the extra money. But if we have the ability to forecast and encumber, I don't know if it's the definition of encumbrance, but create,
Well, we reserve.
You reserve money.
against-
Well, we don't reserve it, but
We
what,
don't.
It's there.
when we do our annual
Budget.
audit, under the GASB 35, which Fred was here.
It's not here.
I think it's GASB 35. I'm not sure exactly the number, but since roughly 2010, 2011, the government accounting standards have been changed to require you to make that calculation. And, when we discuss it, it's something, we have it in our statements, but off the top of my head, I don't know what the number is.
The other thing is, vacation is important for mental health. There is a reason that people are required to take vacation.
Yeah,
It's for your well-being.
well, trust me, we all know somebody
Yes.
who doesn't take their vacation time.
Yes, we
'cause,
do, but
they want to work. But that said, why don't we look at that? And I think it's like GASB 45 or something. I don't know which
Yeah.
one it is, but I remember when that came into existence. But we could look at that as we head into budget.
Right.
This way, you're basically segregating the money so that it's there. So when a person retires, you don't have to take it out of fund balance. It's already
Right.
there.
Well, the other thing too, I mean, we talked about, to agree with your point, was you don't want to change the salary line. What you want to do is you want to have a separate line so you can actually record it. And I was talking with Barbara earlier today on that. And if you had a line where you have somebody you think potentially is going to retire, or there's, as an example, if there's a chance where you had to do something with the salary or whatever, that you make sure you take that into account. So you do have a separate line, you put money aside, you put it in the budget. Each department head should take a look at that and put it in their own separate budget, so that, again, we don't have issues, because I think we're going to have some issues later on. As the
Exactly.
supervisor was talking about before, where, potentially we're going to have some payouts we have to do, and
Right.
we don't
Yeah.
have them covered in our budget today.
Yeah, and we have money. It's
We
just
have money,
we're
but
trying to
it's-
do this in the most, prudent fashion. That's all.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Next, Resolution 2022-105, resolution approving contract for fence installation at Quiet Acres and Rockingham Park. Steve, you want to just summarize, please?
Sure, these are, one fence was flood damaged at Rockingham. I believe we'll be getting some reimbursement
Right.
for that. The other one at Quiet Acres has been on my list for quite some time, and, this is to get them both repaired.
So to be clear, this fencing at Rockingham Park is not for the pond, it's for the fences you go in
It's,
across the bridge?
Correct. It's
Okay.
the fence along the driveway that was damaged during the
Okay.
flood.
And Quiet Acres is behind the residence house?
Correct, between the resident and the new playground,
Okay.
that property line right there.
And we have fencing to repair any of the other fences in the parks?
We have lots of fencing that
Okay,
needs
because
repair.
we'll chat about Castle
Yes.
Point.
No, this
Thank
is, trying to address two immediate problems
Yes,
that have been long
exactly.
overdue. But we have
But
many others.
but
No,
yes,
no,
we
we know.
do.
And Steve has that on
A list,
his
I know you
growing
do.
list.
So as we go to, nothing
Yes.
personal, but as we go to items consideration, I do have a few more questions for you later on. But I'm good with this, Steve, so I'll make a motion that we approve this.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Okay, so we're going to move into items for special consideration, since Courtney and Brian weren't able to be here, I'm sure because of the home duties with the young one. Two of them aren't
God
here,
bless
so
'em.
we'll postpone that to when they can. So I'd like to call upon our Light Star folks, to come on up. They've submitted a petition for rezoning, and
I don't know who's here for our media, but we're not on Verizon.
we're not.
Oh,
Okay,
I just got a text
Well, if
from
we're on
Verizon.
one and not the other, then that's on their end, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Jesse, back there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, go back.
Go.
Go ahead, start. Oh, Steve, you talk to him and say.
Just before John jumps in, do we have capability to hook up to the monitors tonight?
Joe, can we put this one on, I guess? I hope so. Let's see.
be careful.
The guy that runs it has the legislature. He can say.
I was looking for it.
We got to call the AV squad, hang on.
If it is possible, here's, look at that.
I think the screens have to be turned on, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, probably. Joe said
it should be remote.
I guess I'll deputize myself.
Hang on a second. I don't see it out here.
I think it's remote, isn't it?
Wasn't
It's remote, right?
Hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. This is gonna take a while.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. We need to get a little Velcro and put it on there, stick it on the thing.
a 3-year-old that hides it on purpose.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure.
Yep. Oh, there you go, okay.
Yep.
We're getting close. Look at this.
Now you have liftoff.
I'm just glad they turned off the function where they would talk. The TVs would just start talking while we were plugging things in. Stand by, volume 5 or volume 7.
Yeah, we need to.
See if we get it.
You might
Okay.
need to help him.
That's beautiful.
Hey,
You're supposed to
progress.
show.
We'll get there, we'll get there.
But yeah, John, if you want to jump in and then.
As he's setting this up, if you want to just.
Oh, sure, yeah. Good evening, everyone. I haven't been before you in quite a while. My name's John Capello. I'm an attorney with Jacobitz and Gubitz in Orange County, and I've been working with Lightstar in New York Solar on applications throughout the region. It's very exciting, the technology they're bringing to the area, and I'm going to let Sam and Ian speak about that. Really, what I'm here tonight briefly is to talk about procedurally what we need this board to consider to be able to accomplish this project. The property that Lightstar holds an option to lease is located on 189 Myers Corners Road. That property is currently zoned R40. It's one piece that's zoned R40, that's approximately 38 acres inside. One side of it is, one side in the rear is zoned R80, which is a little more of a restrictive residential zone, and then on another side, the other side is zoned office business, conservation office business park. Both of those zoning districts permit solar farms, ground-mounted solar farms. The R40, I'm not sure, the exact reason, but the R40, they're not a permitted use in the R40 zone. So what we've asked the board to consider, and we've submitted, is a petition to amend the zoning map to locate this property, rezone it from R40 to R80. If you wanted to zone it to office business park, that would be fine as well. Either one of those permit solar farms to proceed. So you have a petition before you. It would be a fairly simple local law just to amend the zoning map. And like I said, it's not spot zoning because the property does adjoin either of those zoning districts. And it's this property, like the property in the rear, has been used for farm fields, so it's substantially already cleared. It's pretty flat, I believe, so it's very conducive for a solar farm, and it's very conducive, especially for the technology that Lightstar intends to use, which is agrivoltaics, which will allow what is a win-win situation, and it's emerging technology that has been used in other countries and now located in parts of the United States. You will be one of the first, if you do move forward, one of the first Hudson Valley communities to permit this technology. I guess I call it technology, but this new use for solar of a dual-use system that also preserves agricultural property, agricultural uses of the property to proceed. So, it's very exciting. I understand that with any zoning amendment that he would refer this to the planning board for their comments, and even when the board, if you do consider to amend the zoning map, then either simultaneously or immediately thereafter, the applicants would have to obtain site plan approval from your planning board that would look at the actual particulars of the project. But this is the first step to allow this project to move forward, and we're excited to present it. And so with that, I'm going to introduce Sam to hopefully his computer. I'm tap dancing a little longer to see if the computer will go up.
Dick, can I?
What's it, is it a PowerPoint?
Yeah, I think you want to, I can jump in if you'd like.
Okay, you find it, but I'm having trouble finding the photograph.
While they're looking for that, question, Barbara, the property that is to the east, I guess east, I don't know, northeast, the Meadowbrook property, what is that zoned? Do you know?
Or 40.
That's 40?
The RA
Right, yeah, yeah.
property is Cranberry.
Oh, is that what that is back there?
Yep.
So on the map we have, it's, you see the whole lot as one. How much is 40 versus 80? Because we just see the whole,
R40 is 1 acre, R80 is 2 acres.
so the front, the Meyer Corner side is R40?
The whole lot.
Oh, the
is
whole
R40.
lot is.
But it butts up against R80
So
on
it
the,
just butts up against the R80 then?
right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because when we drew these zones, well, back in 2010, we made some modifications. We followed the parcel lines. They didn't cross geography. They only crossed parcels. So it's adjacent to the quote-unquote Cranberry property, which is R80. But for whatever reason, these properties, these farmland properties are R40 running along. What about across the street? That,
So, yeah, keep in mind that all the properties around that, I think it's urban or something, or R40.
what about the one across the street? Is that part of your, part of the same parcel across the street, right? Or not?
Yes, it is, the little.
What is that, R40?
That's all R40 as well. In the little triangle, there's a land hook.
Yep. Yep.
So, I guess that's one of the things that, I guess, is the property within the triangle there, if you will, contemplated for the solar farm or no?
It is not.
So, one of the questions I have, it might be beneficial to leave that as R40. The surrounding property on that, this is really more for the owner, the surrounding property, there were all residential properties surrounding it. And, if you're not intending to use that as a solar farm, it might stay as R40 and subsequently be subdivided off.
And you have evergreen, so you have a lot of homes that behind you.
Yeah, that used to be Roger's property, right?
Yes. He still owns it. They're leasing
No,
it, aren't they?
he sold it.
He sold
Roger
that
Homestead had that, right? That triangle?
He
Oh, he
lives
does?
there, yeah.
I'm talking about the vacant triangle, though, in the corner of Myers and Old Myers.
It's all along the
Okay. So what Jim is saying is if that particular landmass, that triangle could remain R80 to,
R40.
excuse me, R40 to maintain the integrity of that intersection, then the other aspect of it, across the street, go to R80. That might be the cleanest way to do this.
Well, I mean, I don't think it matters one way or the other, I just think.
That's fine with us. I mean, I'll throw a
Because,
third option there. You could allow solar farms as a permitted use in the R40 too. Any way it gets us to
Yeah.
being able to move.
I think by
forward.
doing that, though, then we always have to,
Then you're looking at-
we got to look at everything, right?
the reason why, frankly, because the reason why solar farms are not permitted in the R40 is that's 1 acre zoning. And, typically the solar farms are on larger parcels. So, and the setbacks. and
Setbacks,
stuff
that's the issue, yeah,
On
the
a
setback.
1 acre parcel don't really make it conducive, so.
Right.
That was the reason, that's the rationale for going to the R80, because those are typically the largest parcels in the town. This parcel, you've got a Central Hudson substation in the middle of it, actually. right,
Which actually
not
works
around it.
for the model here.
Yes.
There's a Central Hudson substation adjacent to the property.
Which was the No, I'm just, what was the property on 9D? We did the
Same
same
thing.
We
On
reduced
9D.
it from
There's a
R40 to
substation
There's a
there for
substation
Central
adjacent to that
Hudson.
solar
Right.
farm. So I get it, the access is there. I'd certainly be interested in hearing input from the planning board. I mean, my position, I'm for this, that's my position. My only reservation would be the view shed from Myers Corners Road, we talked about this last time, which would be a setback or a buffer stipulation. That can be worked out, right?
It's already in the code
yeah.
regarding solar farms.
So that's the only reservation I would have with respect to this. I think this is innovative. I think that this is a real value potential. And again, I think there's also value in the fact that we could be one of the first municipalities to entertain this. And I think there's certainly, this is a future economic type opportunity that I think we should be looking at.
And I agree, and as I mentioned before, there aren't many such things here in the U.S. Japan's been doing it for 30, 40 years. So we can do it, tap into it, but keep agricultural lands intact.
Yeah, I think you make some good points.
Another value.
There was some good points with respect to, the solar farms that we see traditionally where I think you said, there's wasted land under there, right? So, how can we capitalize on the soil quality and the land that exists, right? And at the same time, be exploring this type of energy, green energy, right? I think that's what we need to be looking at as we move forward. I just want, we all have constituents, right? And the first thing that people like to do is complain. So I'm always looking at, okay, the aesthetics, right? How can we provide value in the aesthetics, right? Because people are always going to have an issue with something they're not used to seeing. I do think that with the built-in setbacks and buffers we talked about previously, I think those types of things can be addressed as we move forward. I mean, the parcel's certainly deep enough; it goes way back, right? So that said, I'd be interested in hearing from the planning board, and I'll yield to my colleagues.
How long is your lease?
The first term is 20 years, or then there's an option to extend for, I believe it's 4 or 5 year extensions thereafter.
If for any reason that lease gets broken, you will be taking down this solar farm? It's your responsibility and your expense
We will put a decommissioning bond.
to cover all the expenses?
I believe your code,
I just wanna make sure.
Most of the codes and the provisions of solar require that, most municipalities require decommissioning.
Just want to get on the record and make sure, if for whatever you hit the lottery and you need to leave, that this will be dismantled in the proper.
Yeah, it's something that we wanted to touch on tonight, specific to what a decommissioning bond would look like.
Okay.
For this type of project. So, I mean, it's great to hear that the response of the board is so positive. Obviously, we think that this is a really logical thing to do, and it's great that you guys share that perspective. But if you don't mind, we can just take
Go
What
for
about
it.
replacing, we talked about,
some questions that you guys had brought up last time.
we talked about this last
Dick,
time.
you're doing really well.
Dick's running the slideshow.
This is about a 20-second video.
Oh, video?
If you just want to.
Which one do I click?
So while he's addressing that, for the panels,
Sit here and then use the microphone.
There you go.
Good move. Well played.
Hey, Jim, real quick, is there any difference for the town to do this R80 or the commercial mixed use? I mean,
So
I
if you
think
go
you're
to
not
commercial,
Spielberg. Good.
conservation office park,
yeah.
then the property could be used for both commercial office park and solar farm. Whereas if it's residential use, it's basically going to be mostly solar farm and agricultural.
So your recommendation would be the R80?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
It would require the least amount of seeker review.
Okay.
It's more restrictive.
Yeah, I mean, you're actually upzoning the property, so.
Yeah, upzoning, which is a good thing.
so what about, I think the councilman last time brought up the solar panels, replacing them as the technology becomes more current. Last time you kind of didn't really answer the question about whether you'd be replacing that or not. Do you have a better answer this time?
Yeah, Okay, we are on here. The short answer is that we don't go into these projects ever anticipating to replace the equipment.
20-year-old technology, I mean, I'm sure things change every couple of years, so.
Yeah, so.
And I know there's a cost related to that, so you can't do it every couple of years, but
So it's not something that we can speculate. We simply don't know. If we look at what takes place, or in a more mature industry, if you look at what has happened in wind, where we've now had wind facilities that have been in the U.S. for 20 years now, there has been a market that's been created there called the repower business. As the technology has gotten better, they go in, they use the same exact structures that are there, but they replace the blades with bigger blades, higher efficiency, and yield additional power from those projects. But when those projects went in, I doubt that they were, speculating that would be part of the business model. And that's where we sit today. There's no expectation that we would replace the panels because we don't know what it's going to look like in 20 years. What we do know is that with the exact design that we're looking at now, the exact technology that we're looking at now, a project for 20 years works on all fronts. And we get a ton of benefit from the technology that we're looking at today in an environment where we have to act now on putting renewable energy assets in the ground, and shoring up our energy security in this country.
So
No, I
this is your first venture in the Hudson Valley. Where else have you done something like this before? Is there someplace else outside of Hudson Valley that we could take a look at online?
Yeah, no.
See what you look like?
It's part of our presentation here.
Okay.
We've been developing solar projects in New York State for, about 3-4 years now. But agrivoltaic projects, as has kind of been part of the conversation here, this is newer territory for all parties involved in this country. But we're a little bit late to the game, and we've got some catching up to do. But as I'll show you in a minute here, I can show you some of the progress that's been taking place today. And Ian can speak to his experience in assisting in the development of agrivoltaic projects right here in the Northeast. So without further ado,
I just have one more question or one more statement to make, and I agree with the councilman on the end, Mr. Beal, the buffer zone. So again, a lot of residents are worried about the buffer zone, what you're going to put up there on Myers Corners Road. That's, aesthetic-wise, it's going to look nice, but it's also going to kind of hide your panels and everything else so that it's not visible every time you drive down Myers. So I'm sure you'll talk about that further, and that'll be probably a planning board requirement as well, again, because it's in the code, but just want to make sure we take that into account as well. Thank you.
we certainly will. And if the town has a landscape architect, we'll work hand in hand with the landscape architect to put in a planting plan, a screening plan that meets the standard of the town, all the boards and the architect.
Okay.
So this is a video of Jack's Solar Garden. This is probably the most mature agrivoltaics project in the country, and it's just a cool clip to give you a sense of what this can look like. As you know, you move through the arrays here and get a sense of what this looks like in practice. And this is the same technology that we're proposing here, where you've got the single-axis tracker. You can see how the vegetables' relationship to the sun and the shade changes over the course of the day. And obviously, this is a very healthy-looking farm here. So this stuff really works, and it's pretty cool. So, you know, where is this happening locally, and what's kind of our collective experience? I'll let Ian jump in here.
Hello again. So yeah, this is, the question was, are there some more local projects? This is one in Carver, Massachusetts. It's hay, so other crops that we can grow. Hay, there's an array just beyond the power line in the back that's grazing of cattle. This is a project that is, this is brand new cover crop that went down. This is being overseeded with a permanent pasture mix. This is also going to be grazing of cattle. With it, you can graze sheep on almost any array. The cattle part is the interesting part because they would really destroy a conventional solar array. So this one, being higher off the ground and being able to stow, allows the ability to have cattle in there. This is another view. This is the same project, two different parts of the project. One is for the cattle grazing, and this is for vegetables. So this is not exactly the same as this is a fixed tilt, so the panels are staggered. This is not the same as what we're talking about here, but same concept. So this is where working with UMass and American Farmland Trust and Cornell, researching the impact of this on butternut squash and Boston lettuce, and then we're in this year, and we're looking at strawberries and other crops like that in the following years. That's an aerial, just to give you an idea of, if I can show you, we have, this is a livestock array. In that bottom right corner is the area of where the shelter's going to be for the cattle, the heavy use area, so we're integrating the NRCS conservation practices for cover cropping, erosion control, and you can see the green area around. There's two fences, one livestock fence, deer, the other one a smaller fence for the retention areas. We have security plus deer control. From a crop perspective, I'm sure you can talk about this. From a cropping perspective, if with the solar array having a fence around it, a livestock fence, you're essentially guaranteeing more of a crop than you otherwise would have without the fence.
Thanks, Ian.
Okay, this is way out there, but what about the winter time?
What about?
What, how does, there's no crops and everything still goes as, okay?
Yeah, I mean, typically, so some of the technology is, there's some bifacial panels, so it's from an energy perspective, where this reflection off the snow and
Okay.
even off grass can help generate more electricity.
That's what you found in Massachusetts?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And from a, it's the winter, right? So we're gonna be grazing. So some of the array, what you don't see here is hayland. That is, so we've got a place to store the hay. We'll be feeding the cattle out through the winter for the grazing part. And for vegetables, yeah, there won't be any production of vegetables in the winter.
And what Ian was talking about with bifacial panels, that's universal across all of our projects, whether they're agrivoltaics or not. And of course, our energy yield goes down in the winter because there's less sun, and also we have what's called snow soiling, where we get snow on the panels. But to make up for some of that lost energy, we've got the bifacial panel where we're pulling whatever albedo there is or reflection off of snow cover below. We're pulling that energy as well, and increasing the overall efficiency of the project.
So obviously, this is, from a solar point of view, you can go get a piece of property and put panels up. So you're a value add to the farmer, correct? Basically.
Certainly.
So, not to toot your own horn, but what have you done to help, help farmers, maybe change their crop choices, that kind of thing for a financial gain for the farmer?
Yeah, so this is really a great question, because this is something that we recognize in the agricultural world. If you can combine...
Can you just grab that microphone, please? Thank you.
Good question. If you can combine, and that's what we're talking about here as a nation, if you can combine the energy sector drive And we need energy, right? That we talked about all of that. When you combine that with agricultural sector know-how and land, and then you can start having a conversation of doing things a little bit differently, right? Regenerative agriculture is a here today thing. It's indigenous. It's something that we probably should go back to. To do that, when farmers have a note on their property, and the insurance company says you shall grow GMO producing, you're stuck. So what this does is it provides the opportunity for farmers to take a breath, because there's a lease payment associated with the property. There's also, and this doesn't have to be indicative to all projects, but it is for LifeStar's projects. There's a stipend for the agricultural part of this. So now we can start to say, well, can we do things differently? Can we have permanent cover crop so that we're looking at the root zones? And can we integrate the conservation practices that the Natural Resources Conservation Service wants? That conversation can happen. So that's really, it's an exciting endeavor. Mm-hmm. It's something that we're looking in Massachusetts, and every place in New Jersey and New York should be looking at. NYSERDA is looking at what practices they should require or suggest strongly that can incorporate into these projects that are truly dual use.
Good.
Well, thank you. Like the councilman said earlier, I'm excited for the project. I'd like to see what the planning board has to say, but I think it's a great project for the town.
I think it's not only great for the town, it's also great for agricultural endeavors in the town. I think that this innovation is what we need to see. Moving forward, there's all sorts of issues with energy, which we've been dealing with here. Energy demand is higher than energy supply right now. That's why our prices are so erratic. I think that it's these types of innovative projects that are going to help stabilize the energy market moving forward. And certainly, I think it would be a privilege for this town to help facilitate something this innovative. I think this is really the direction we need to be going. With two value adds at the same time here. That's what's going on. The only thing I would say that we need to keep an eye on is this particular parcel with its location to the airport. We want to make sure there's not going to be any issues with reflection. These are all things that would have to be looked at, but being that this is a new type of thing and you have panels that are actually moving, want to make sure that that's not going to be an issue. You may want to look into that as this moves forward, make sure that there's no FAA issues. I don't know if you've dealt with that in your other locations. Go ahead.
As I understand it, they're non-reflective, right?
They-
that anymore.
I think the idea-
First ones were reflective and caused issues, but today it's non-reflective material.
That's true, and just to be absolutely certain, there's a FAA tool
Okay.
to evaluate
Good.
whether a project has any
Call that
impact.
out in our code.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Just want to make, I'm just playing devil's advocate just to make sure we're covering the bases here, because this is close to the airport.
Yep.
And again, I now remember you saying previously the idea is for them not to be reflective now at this generation of panel, because you want to absorb as much energy as you can, right?
Very true.
So, also, just question with respect to snow. I happen to have some antiquated assets that I use in my day job that have solar panels on them, and snow can be a challenge because they're fixed panels on those units. Does the snow come off when these turn, or how does that?
It absolutely helps.
Okay.
Depends on how much you get.
Yeah, and how wet it is.
Or you get out there and start brushing them off.
Yeah, any number of considerations, but the moving function reduces snow load
Okay.
significantly.
Accumulation,
Yeah, just curious how that would work. Yeah, again, I'd be anxious to hear the planning board's input on this. Again, my position is clear. I think that this is the right approach, and when it comes back to us, based on their input, I'll be happy to opine again. Thank you.
So Jim, what's the proper process?
So we have an application that's come in. The one thing that we need to establish, the application fee was paid. The town board can establish an escrow for review. Typically, we have a $10,000 review fee, but, you know, this is more of a streamlined application, I think.
5,000.
5,000 would be appropriate. And then the question for seeker lead agency, you know, in the past, we've delegated lead
Right.
agency status to the planning board on a coordinated review. I don't know the board's feeling if they want to retain lead agency status or designate the planning board, or ask the planning board should they wish to do it, I guess.
Well, you know, I guess a mixed, you know, of feelings, but since this is an important item for the town, because we're looking at other agricultural properties, preserving and so forth, is that, you know, maybe we want to maintain lead agency in this one, since there's precedent, a lot of issues, and it's new. I don't know, just my thought, I don't know.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I have no problem with being lead agency on this.
Either.
Okay, so then,
So what resolution we need tonight? Setting up escrow account?
just, yeah, setting up the
Right.
escrow account, and then we'll have B circulate for lead agency, intent for the town board to serve as lead agency.
Wouldn't Joe circulate since this is a town board action? Or the town clerk?
Yeah, I guess the town clerk should circulate.
Okay.
But we'll have just have,
We'll have Malcolm.
Right.
Or,
okay.
Thank you, Barbara.
So just another question. You talked about locally, you're going to sell the produce to local vendors like Hannaford's, et cetera. Is still on the table? You still have a contract with them?
Yeah, I mean, Brian's
That's
the
Brian's
guy.
area.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna, anything that can go to Meadowbrook Farm
Right.
first would be to Meadowbrook Farm. Any residuals after that, a bunch of different restaurants have been in touch with us and said they take everything that we
What about the local food banks?
what's that?
Local food banks?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Since Brian and his family is the farmers here, you know, so he'll be doing that, and the relationship established with Meadowbrook and a number of other things. He's going to take the lead with that, and, you know, Lightstar is doing the energy installation and management of it, right?
Yep.
So do we need a resolution for an escrow or no?
Yeah, I mean, if you could do it, then we'll
Yeah.
formalize it.
I think that's what we do.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Is there an amount that we need to?
5,000.
5,000.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yep.
5,000.
good.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. John, anything else that you?
Just logistics, we'll submit the application as it is to the planning board now, but we did hear the board.
We want to be lead agent.
So we might have some
Yeah.
for the comments, but.
Right.
We'll try to get the survey information to split out,
Right.
so it's only
Yeah.
the solar area. that-
Right, and you
the rest
coordinate
would stay.
the legal aspects with Jim and then our
Right.
planners.
So, I mean, the only issue, and you don't have to make this determination at this point in time, whether you want to do a subdivision or not. So, you know, again, that could come anytime, but it's natural, it's already de facto subdivision, but it's one tax lot. So, the other issue would be for the town board to adopt a resolution declaring itself to serve as its lead agency.
Move.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed.
And then we'll also refer this to the planning board for their
Right.
comment.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, Barbara?
Now, for the planning board, will Lightstar be able to give a similar presentation to the planning boards, that they understand the
Yeah.
concept? I
There's
think,
a lot of slides there still.
I think it would be very valuable.
The supervisor's going to come and run this.
The more folks that see what your concept
Right.
is, I think that's value too. Thank you.
Yeah, we certainly agree.
I mean, I know they all watch our meetings, you know,
Not tonight, they're not.
just like I watch theirs.
Yeah, they've got a
Tonight
bowl of
they are.
popcorn at home right now.
Okay. Anything further,
Thank you.
gentlemen? John? Ian?
Very much,
Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thanks,
Thank
folks.
you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay, let's see. The next item is gateway sign replacement. I asked Al to talk about it. since Joey's not here, Joey's with the legislation.
Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to replace the town sign. If you're coming in from East Fishkill into Wappingers over by the castle, the sign's been knocked down. It's been down for a significant amount of time. We went back to a company called Sign Language. They've done all the other signs in the town, and they've offered to be able to do this particular sign repair, actually replacement, for $2,670. And so we really need to get this replaced. A number of residents have inquired when we're going to get it fixed. I think we need to get it fixed. It's one of the first signs you see coming into our town. So what I'd like to do is make a motion that we go ahead and approve $2,670 for the replacement sign for the one that's there as you come into the town of Wapinja over by where the castle is.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. And thank you, Al, for reaching out to the sign guy, getting that done. Okay, very good. The last item of the items for special consideration, subject to any other board items, is Mr. Moot, talk about the town hall, window replacement. You had gone back, done some more homework, and
we did some more homework, and we got some better answers. The last time I reported, it sounded like the opening was only going to be 18 inches, but the opening is actually 28 inches.
Oh, good.
And with the correspondence in the agenda item, this has European hardware, so there is a video, and I kind of shared it with some of the people that would be kind of using it. Then Barbara's like kind of a concern because you're back in there. Did you get a chance? Hopefully that made sense to you. So we're ready to make a recommendation. We had solicited 3 quotes. Out of 3, we got 2 responses. Out of the 2, we're recommending JPL Glass out of Pauling. That's $28,288. That's labor and materials. It includes 4 windows. So.
Jim, and that's okay. We did seek 3. Could only get 2. So I told Tim I thought that's okay.
Yeah, no, so the one question that I had was the numbers I came across first, I didn't know if it included labor or it was just windows.
Okay.
So it's under the 35,000. So it's below the competitive bid threshold. Under our procurement policy, you just have to try to get 3 bids.
Right. That's right.
If
Which you did.
Get
Yes.
1 or 2 back, that's fine. So it complies with competitive bidding. The one question, or complies with our procurement policy. The only question I believe is did we make appropriations for these windows in the budget?
No,
we
I don't
didn't.
believe so. So we have to,
So it would be a transfer out of A fund balance in the amount of 20,
If you want to add contingency, and you said 30,000,
Yep.
because there's labor at an hourly
and
rate.
perhaps
so.
cost increase or something, so.
not to
I mean,
exceed
I'd-
30.
Not to exceed.
I'd like to have us vote on that tonight, and Jim can come
Yep.
up with a reso, because this is important.
This
for
is safety, yeah.
safety
Does this
issue.
cover all the egresses necessary?
Or just certain
This is
ones?
just 4, and
4.
it's in strategic
But
areas.
Yeah.
it's the areas that
Need
are
it.
most needed and exposed, and we can look at other things later on in other areas, but.
What, do you get a better price if you do more?
It's been painful to get this far. Let's start here, and then we can.
I guess the
revisit.
only other question is what are we looking at for schedule?
Installation.
I'll have to give them an acknowledgement of this is what we want to do, and I can get a schedule for you.
Okay,
That's good.
so I have a motion for
Second.
30,000.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second
motion
Second, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed.
Tell them
Thank
if
you,
they have-
Tim, for,
Tell them they have the potential of further business if they expedite.
thanks for getting
expedite
us,
this.
to this point. We really appreciate it, because it's been something we've been talking about for a while, and have been through it, so I do appreciate your personal efforts to get it done.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, good.
So there was one other resolution regarding the fencing at Robinson Lane.
Yes, I want to talk about that.
Go ahead, sir.
'Cause I kind of disagree with the attorney's assessment here. So we went out, just so folks know here, what we're trying to do is for the fences over at Robinson Lane, we actually authorized $100,000 we're going to put away for repairs. We're hoping to get some of that money back from FEMA. Doesn't look like we're going to get it, but we're still pursuing that. I think Frederick talked about $20,000 we could potentially get back so far. So what we've done is we've actually spent $20,000 We have about $80,000 of that money left to go. We've asked for 2 quotes, and Steve is aware of this. The first one was from Mid-Hudson Fence, which we didn't get any quotes back. We actually walked the fields back in probably mid-February. Didn't get a quote back. We called 2 or 3 times. So I asked Steve to go out and get a second quote, which he did from Adams, which is roughly $84,000. So we're about $5,000 short on the I'll call it the $80,000 that we have left. So, Jim, I thought we were able to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we've tried to get 2 quotes already. We have not pursued a third one, but we've got 2 people we've asked for quotes. We've only got 1 quote back. And I'd like to see if there's a way. Again, I want to make sure we're doing everything proper, procurement policy, et cetera. But we've really only had 2 participants. Do I need a third one?
So the threshold is $35,000.
Right.
If it exceeds $35,000, you're subject to competitive bidding under GML 103, which requires the preparation of bid specs. It has to be advertised in the town newspaper. You have to have the bid opening on not less than 5 days, and it's open to the world. So that's the requirement if it's in excess of $35,000. There are exceptions: state bid, county bid, piggyback bid through BidNet. So if any...
Because these are all prevailing wage, all these quotes, so I don't know what else. Okay.
And again, that's separate, so every one of the bids is subject to prevailing wage. But, so if any of these vendors are on a piggyback contract or a county contract or a state contract, you can contract with them directly because under the statutes, that satisfies the competitive bidding requirement.
Now, they did a lot of fences over at Robbins Lane in the past, so is that considered piggybacking, or what do you consider that?
No. So a piggyback contract is a contract that another municipality will competitively bid.
Okay.
That specifically allows for other municipalities to, quote, piggyback on that bid. So we could use piggyback bids from any jurisdiction in the United States or federal agencies. But again, that contract at some point in time went through the competitive bidding process. When we go to state bid to OGS, the reason why those contracts are not subject to competitive bidding is because OGS, New York State Office of General Services, advertises to the world to submit bids for anyone in New York State. So the competitive bidding process has taken place. So anything more than $35,000 is subject to competitive bids, and if you do not comply with the competitive bidding laws, the contract is void and the contractors cannot be paid.
Okay, so what we need Steve to do is go out and get 3 separate bids?
No. What we need to do is we need to have
Competitive bid process.
we need to have bid specifications prepared. They don't have to be very substantial, but you basically just show a sketch map of the area where you want fencing, which will have some specifications as far as length. Steve can supply the details. Again, my recommendation is that the town attorneys do it because they do it all the time. It doesn't have to be a very sophisticated bid specification. You just basically say, here's the fields that we want to bid, that we want to fence. Here's the lengths of the fencing. There's 2 dugout proposals that are in there. You put that in there. You also have to, again, once you get over the $35,000, then we have to have provisions for workers' compensation insurance, non-collusion certificates, prevailing wages. It's got to be registered with the New York State Department of Labor. So, there's a lot of requirements once you get above $35,000 that you have to meet. So
what do we need to do? What do we need to do tonight?
law.
I mean, you said a lot, but what do I need to do tonight? I know you put this thing out here saying anything over $35,000 got to go out the competitive bid, et cetera. So what do we need to do to move this thing forward?
So what you would do is authorize the town engineer to prepare competitive bid specifications, work with Steve to develop those. You then would, they then advertise them,
Okay. Because we do have the specific information already by fence, by field, et cetera, what we want done. So that's already been done by one particular company already, that we got the only bid back for.
So then that gets put out, it gets
Okay.
this bid specification gets published in the newspaper.
And if you
It's
still have only
another
one,
way,
then
that's
we're
it.
done.
If you still have one, you get one.
And
One
what
of
is the,
other
what is the
things that
time
you-
period that you have, that we have to get this, back? Do they have like a month? How long? What's the
No,
bid
again,
process?
5 days from the minimum of 5
Okay.
days from the publication.
Okay,
And then you can also send it to people who you think would be interested. In addition to advertising in the newspaper, you can send it to Adams, you can send it to whoever, any other fence companies that you had solicited proposals from,
And put it on BidNet.
and put it on
So
bid.
Tim, you could do this tomorrow, right?
so does that
Put it on the
mean,
pile.
so does that mean we need to have this resolution that says, resolution authorizing preparation of competitive bidding specification for fencing in Robinson Lane Fields? Is that what that means?
So moved.
I'll move, second.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions?
So I have a-
Tim, get on that.
And so what that resolution, the resolution that was prepared, basically authorizes the town engineers to prepare the bid specs, to advertise,
Right.
and then the town clerk will open the responsive bids on a date that's in the specification notices, and then based on those bids that are received, the town engineer will make a recommendation as to who's the lowest
Okay.
responsible bidder, and at that time, you can award the contract.
Thank you.
It would just nice to have it done, before the season's over.
This year?
See, I told you you needed to come, okay?
This year.
Oh, you got me. I was gonna say which.
Yeah, really.
You're a funny guy, that's why I said that. I still have a couple other things, too. This one's for Steve again. So, nice job over on the paving over at Robinson Lane. When are they putting the speed bumps in?
They may be in. He called me the other day and said he was gonna try and do them that afternoon. I haven't been out there to see whether it happened or not.
Okay.
I think it was Thursday of last week he had called.
So the paving's done over there?
Yeah,
Yes.
paving is done, it
Looks
looks
really
really
Yeah,
good,
it is.
came out well.
Well, that's good.
We have to backfill the paving with item 4 to keep the oxygen from breaking. We'll get that done as soon as we can.
How's the water over at Challenger Field?
That's on, it's running.
Done?
Yeah, the only thing,
How is it?
Yeah, because
Yes.
it wasn't, last time I was there, it wasn't working.
Everything's been approved and it's in operation now.
Good.
what about the locks and the doors, they're all done?
You were waiting for the
Yeah,
delivery.
I just spoke to them the other day. I'll have to do another follow-up on that. They were gonna come in and do it, but it got late in the afternoon and they didn't make it out there.
Okay. And then the garden club, one other thing, last thing for me, I guess. The garden club, we just bought 300 feet of hose, and it's very heavy for them to pick up because they got to connect it to the side of the supervisor's office. So one of the things they were looking for is, can we get one of those collapsing hoses?
300 foot.
I don't know how you
I
do
don't
that. I
know
think they
if
come
you
in
can get
increments of
300 feet.
25.
I don't know if they make them that
25 or
big,
50, but is
that
there something
long.
else
I don't know.
we can do? Because we can't have them carry buckets of water from the senior center over to the gazebo or run a 300-foot hose. I mean, even Dick was talking about that
Oh,
before
no,
today.
they're so heavy to pull.
They're so heavy to do, so we're looking for an alternative here.
So you come through when you do that?
So Chris volunteered to take care of it, but I'm wondering,
Yeah.
I don't know what else you could do, Steve?
I don't, I'll have to look at it. I've
Yeah,
got a lot on my
it's a good
plate
idea.
and had not considered it.
Rain barrel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. Well, yeah, let's look at it and figure out that
that
there's
actually
no water
is an
access
option.
outside any place, right?
Outside.
Well, we do have, but I think it's about 40 feet from the end of the building. There's a spigot.
Two of those don't work, though.
So-
The only one that works, it turns
So
on.
we have a well that could be used for irrigation water, if you put a pump down into it? I'm just asking.
No, we only have the one well that I'm aware of.
No, I know, that's
Yeah.
right. I'm just,
Oh, well, that's what's supplying the building.
no, I understand that, but can something else be put down so you have another, I don't know,
Well,
faucet or
the thing to do would be to
spigot.
run a line to that end of the building.
Right, that's,
Yeah, and I looked at that with the recreation director. We have water supply in her room there. We just have to go up through the ceiling and down to an exterior wall.
So what, would you run a hose there, or is it something
No,
else?
so put a
Put a-
pipe in.
put a
faucet.
pipe and then a faucet
Outdoor
out there.
faucet.
Right,
know, like a-
there. You still might have to have
A hose bib, they
out
call
to the
it.
gazebo, but at least along the building side, it's short.
Yeah, because the two spouts here, the two closest ones, don't work. One of them was busted off,
Yeah.
so you can't use that special key, and the other one,
It's down on, it's on the other side.
yeah, they were afraid to turn it because it wouldn't turn, so the only one that works is the one by
One over
the
here.
supervisor's
Yeah, I
office.
know.
Also, seriously, Jim, you brought up the rain barrel. Why don't we look into that? Also, environmentally friendly, way to go, free, it comes off the roof of the gazebo. Just think about it. Cornell will help you.
Yeah, they actually.
They
usually
do.
have a
List
rain
of
barrel
everything
there.
They have a lot of, I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
if you were to call them up, they'll give you
Steve, why
free
don't you just
information.
connect the sump pump to the pond in the back?
I could do that too.
Pond's on our property, part of it.
You guys are killing me over here.
I have
Oh, it's a problem, Al, there.
Yeah,
It's
no,
a
I-
serious
We
problem.
have to
It is.
address,
It
so
is. It
I
is.
agree with you.
And there's another thing I need to talk to you about, but I got to talk to you in private, so we'll do that later.
I do want to thank you for what you are doing down at the yacht club, not the yacht club, at the boat launch in Chelsea, because of the weather and the high tides and the mess.
The wind.
Telling the residents, please, please be careful if you go down there to launch a boat. It is
We posted some
very,
things
very,
today
yes, I saw that on the
to try to
website,
get
and
it
thank
out.
you, but
Right.
anybody
Once
watching
the
TV?
Once the weather calms down, we'll get down there and
Yes.
do a good cleanup.
But thank you, thank you.
Sure.
You and the highway department, because I know they were working,
Yeah.
I think, with you.
Tim and Steve, speaking of town hall, bore samples, when's
We're on
that
the
coming?
schedule for, believe it or not till July 11th for the drilling. And we have it on schedule for our survey group the first week in June, so
Okay.
Was that 22?
that's 22.
Okay, just checking.
Okay.
I have one
my
question
God.
for you. Sometime last year, the board had approved $2,000 for volleyball sand. I wasn't able to get the courts prepared to bring that sand in and didn't spend that money. I don't know if I need to get a reapproval on that. Okay.
Yes, you do.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Any
you.
nays or abstentions? Seeing none, it passes.
Did that volleyball league ever happen last year?
Yes,
Yes.
last
Oh,
year it did.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is it
and
go?
they've been in contact with me.
They want to start it
this
back
season
up.
Okay.
Good, they'll get
So when-
Santa and
I do actually have one more thing for him. Sorry. That cylinder over at Rockingham, you know, the big cement cylinder you put in there to block off the snowmobiles from going into the
Right.
fields. You gonna move that out anytime?
I'm actually gonna get in touch with the highway super tomorrow and talk about scheduling.
Okay.
thank you.
And the other
Steve.
thing I gotta talk to you about it later on. I'm done, sorry.
Okay, anything
too.
else before we go in executive session for 3 more hours? No, I get a reaction. Okay, nothing more than like to have a motion executive session for discussing proposed land acquisition, employee issues, union negotiations, and a liability claim.
Move. Second.
Second.
Okay, moved and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you. And,